Hey guys, we've got lots to talk about today. I'm going to be covering my September favorites. I've got quite a few things here. And as usual, what I'd like to do is put as many of my favorites onto my face as possible. And we'll do some cutaway to that B-roll as I'm talking about the products so you can actually see them in action. So let's go ahead and get started with foundation. This is a late entry to this month's favorites because I just started playing around with this, but I can't get enough. This is so wonderful. This is the Shiseido Revitалescence Skin Glow. And Shiseido sent this bottle to me, but what I noticed was when I went onto the Sephora site, the bottle, at least the picture of the bottle on the Sephora site said SPF 30. So I was ecstatic that this also has SPF in there. So some call outs about this foundation. It has Kaffir Plus, and it also has niacinamide, which is one of my favorite skincare ingredients. It helps reduce pore size. For me, that's like the first thing I noticed, but it's also supposed to help kind of dull out dark spots, which I have plenty of. So love niacinamide. I have the shade 150 Lace, which is, I think, again, on Sephora, I think they call it like rose or just a very cool tone. In the bottle, I don't really detect a lot of rosiness to it. And I know this bottle is kind of frosted over, but it has more of just a very cool tone, kind of grayish tinge to it, which happens to be like the tone of foundations that work really, really well for me. I'm not sure what this says about my skin tone, but I think it just, because my face is warmer than the rest of my body, I think it just ends up helping my face match with the rest of my body. So anyway, 150 really works for me. It's called Lace. They also sent over 140 Porcelain, which is, it's just a little bit warmer, and I just felt like that wasn't the right kind of tone for me. So anyway, if you do use me as like a reference for your shades, I would try 150 or 140 if you feel like 150 is a little bit too cool. What I do love about this is that it claims to have a 12-hour wear. I did an 8-hour wear test with you guys a couple days ago, and it was fantastic. It wore really, really well. I didn't really put any powder down. I did like a little test where after several hours of wear, I felt like, you know, where I get shiny was getting shinier. It was like my oils were kind of starting to break through. So I did powder that one spot just to kind of see, like, is that gonna help? Is that gonna stop? And it did really help. So I think if you do have normal to oilier skin, or if you have areas of your face that are just typically oilier, like for me, the tip of my nose, and these areas, this sort of freckle zone and like between my brows, I would just go ahead and powder at the start of the day. Like I wouldn't even let it get that far. So aside from that, I just thought it wore really, really beautifully. I love the finish of this foundation. I have makeup pretty much all over it, maybe down here. It's just a very natural finish. It is a little radiant, a little glowy, but nothing over the top. It just, like I said, it just looks very, very natural. And it has a light medium coverage. I think you could definitely build it up to medium. I use a very, very light hand with this. I just squeeze out one pump. I put that all over my face. I feel like I can still see my natural skin shining through, which is what I like. That's my preference. Yeah, and it's just wonderful. And you guys know how much I love, love, love the Dr. Jart Premium BB. I've been talking about that for like the last few months, and this has finally taken its place. This is sitting on my vanity, and the Dr. Jart is put away. Not that I don't still love that, but that has been put away. I'm like, let me take a break from that, and I've been using this very happily. So that's the new Revitалescence Skin Glow Foundation from Shiseido. So this past month, I did a couple of videos where I kind of had to dig back through my collection, and so I discovered a few things that I have not used in a while, and the bronzer that I have been loving is one of those. This is the Clé de Peau Bronzing Powder Duo. I have it in shade number 1. There's 2 shades, there's 1 and 2, one is lighter. And I just love this bronzer. It just has such a wonderful tone and a wonderful finish. The tone of this is very peachy. I love a peachy toned bronzer. It gives me the warmth that I'm looking for, but it's not too orangey, right? Peach is like just short of being like bright orange, and it's just lovely. And the finish, it's so, I don't even know if you can see it in the pan. It's so slight, but there's just the subtlest hint of like a satin finish. So when I apply it on my skin, I just start to feel like I glow in every way. I just glow because of the finish. It just adds like a really nice, very, very subtle sheen. And then I glow because of the actual like tone to this bronzer. It's Really, really beautiful. And because of the peachiness, I feel like I can use it all over my cheek and it acts as like a bronzer and a blush. Like I don't feel like I have to use another blush on top of this bronzer. And I love that. Anything to kind of cut down on how long I'm putting on my makeup, I think is a good thing. So that is the Clé de Peau Bronzing Powder Duo. Just love it. Now, I would be remiss if I did not mention these palettes. These are the new Ambient Edit Unlocked Face Palette. I don't know if I got all the words in there, but these are the new Hourglass face palettes. I have been using Jellyfish probably the most, and then the leopard one a little bit thrown in there. So the Jellyfish one is definitely the lightest of the three that came out. The third one, the snake one, I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous, but it's just too deep for my skin tone. Every time I use it, I think, oh gosh, let me tone down that blush a little bit. But these two palettes I can use very easily. So here is the Jellyfish palette. And I did a whole video, you know, talking about these palettes and comparing them and all of that. So I'm not gonna bore you with all of that. But I love the Hourglass powders. I love these palettes. Every time they come out, I love these palettes. They make me happy. And I love, love, love what they did this year in particular. I just really enjoy the variety of the products in here. So last year, their lightest palette, which one was it? It wasn't the butterfly. Was it the butterfly? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. Anyway, last year when they did this, the lightest one didn't have a bronzer. And I was kind of annoyed at that. I'm like, well, if I'm gonna have a face palette, like I want the whole thing. I want the whole situation. And there was no bronzer in there. This year, they actually put a new bronzer shade in here. So very, very exciting. So I love the Jellyfish. The Hourglass powders are so gorgeous. They're smooth. They have that beautiful kind of like satiny kind of like radiance to them without being too overpowering. They're very soft, so pick them up with like a very light hand. You don't need to jab your brush in there too much. Yeah, so they're just easy to work with. They blend out beautifully. So absolutely gorgeous. Here is the leopard one, and I really, really love this highlight. It is what I have on this cheek. Sorry, I have two highlights that I wanted to mention. One is here, and this one from the leopard palette is on here. It is extremely metallic. It is extremely metallic. It is extremely reflective. If you like a bold highlight, you're gonna really, really enjoy the Hourglass highlights. These aren't new. Like this highlight formula is not new to their line, but it is definitely one of the boldest, shiniest, most wet looking highlights I have ever come across. Just really, really gorgeous. And you can see like how smooth the Hourglass powders are in this highlight. For blush, I used everything from the leopard palette. I used this shade right here, down in the middle. That one is Ethereal Flush. And then the name of this highlight, just for reference, is the Metallic Strobe Powder, and it's Celestial Strobe Light. So yeah, I used this just on the apples of my cheeks because I did really like what the Clé de Peau Bronzing Powder Duo did. In terms of blush, I really liked it. I didn't want to, take away too much from it, so I just used this Ethereal Flush just on the apples of my cheeks and just brought it out a little bit. You can probably see where I stopped using it. Yeah, like right there. Anyway, loving those Hourglass palettes. I get a lot of comments, and I totally get this. And I agree. It's like, how many times can we come out with this 6-pan face palette with these ambient lighting powders? And, so far, I'll take them. I love when they come out. I get really excited. They did come out with, this release, they did come out with quite a few shades, especially in the Snake palette. There's a lot of new shades in that one. There's a few in the Jellyfish. I think there's only one in the Leopard. In this one, which is a little disappointing. But yeah, I just like these palettes. I don't know if I'll ever get sick of Hourglass coming out with these palettes. They're just fun. And I'm kind of like a face palette junkie. So those I had to mention. And then the other highlight that I'm wearing is, this is not new to my favorites. This is the Westman Atelier Liquid Super Loaded highlights. And I just wanted to highlight Peau de Pêche. So I've talked a lot about Peau de Rosé because I love using that as an under eye primer. It's just gorgeous. I still love the Peau de Rosé as an under eye primer. It's incredible. When it comes to the Peau de Rosé, it's that extra step that sometimes I'm just too lazy for. Nothing against the actual product or what it does and all of that. I just wish I wasn't so lazy. I would use that every single day. However, the Pot de Pêche is the highlighter I like to use on my face. So when I do get to the highlighting point, I have been reaching for this one. If I don't want anything this intense, I've been reaching for this because this gives you a nice kind of glossy glow, but you can tell it's so much more subdued than something like this. So this for me is like such a great everyday highlight. And so I've been reaching for that one. And then another thing that I have been using a lot because of like a rediscovery, because of a video that I did this past month when I was doing my current favorites at Sephora, I kind of rediscovered this Dior Show Brow Styler. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Dior Show Brow Styler. I have it in the shade Dark Brown 002. It's by Dior. And I just love it. I love the micro tip. And I said this in the video, I don't think, the micro tip is not new or unique to Dior, but there's something about, I think, the texture of the actual pencil. Most eyebrow pencils are going to be really, really waxy because you don't want to kind of mistakenly draw too harsh or too dark of a line. You want to be able to kind of build up slowly, right? Kind of typical. So they're very, very waxy. And then there are some brow products that I've come across that are just a little bit too pigmented. They're a little bit too dark when I just very lightly touch them to my face. This is kind of in between. So I don't feel like I have to, like with the waxy ones, I feel like I'm sitting there and I'm like really getting in there, really drawing them in. This one is just kind of a nice in between where I feel like I just need to do a couple strokes, brush it out with the spoolie, which is on the other side, and I've got like filled in brows. And I have been reaching for this more than my Persona Swipe Up Brow Gel. I mean, brow gel, as you guys know, is like my favorite, because I just feel like it's so, so easy to use and it's so much faster. But yeah, I've just been reaching for an eyebrow pencil. Maybe my brows are thinning and I just want to fill them in a little bit more. I don't know, maybe that's it. But yeah, I've been loving it. Okay, let's move on to eyeshadows. So let's talk about what I have on my lids. You can probably guess by looking at my lids, but I have the Merit Solo Shadow in Studio on my lids, and I really enjoy this, and I've mentioned this quite a few times over the past month in my vlogs and stuff. I really enjoy the formula, and I really enjoy this shade. So this Studio shade is probably the lightest shade that they came out with. Anyway, it's like a very neutral kind of putty kind of color. I don't know how else to describe this. Yeah, it's just a really interesting kind of like putty, like almost like a toned down, desaturated like clay color. It's very, very pretty. And I just have it all over my lids. It's the only eyeshadow I have on. The texture of this shadow, I think, takes a little getting used to. I think if you use a brush, which is my favorite, you can use a brush or you can use your finger. I know some people really love to use their fingers. I'm a brush gal, and so I like to use a really dense, rounded brush. So this is the full coverage touch-up brush from Bobbi Brown. You can use this. You can use like the West Manatelli Baby Blender brush, which you guys know I love to use with her iPods, but it would work well with these Merit shadows as well. So you want like a dense kind of brush. You just want to pick up a little bit at a time. So I just kind of like stab it a little bit, a couple of times, maybe 2 or 3 times, and then I just graze it over my lid. So I don't do anything to like pick up a lot and just start smearing it, because there's a tackiness and a little bit of a dryness to this shadow because it does set down completely where it doesn't budge at all, like not at all. So you want to kind of work it gently, and you want to work it in layers if you're trying to build up the color. So I would definitely start with like a little bit and just start kind of grazing it over your eyelids. I think that for me is the easiest way of applying this because it will set down. And what I've noticed with shadows that are this kind of formula, they're a little bit tacky. Like really trying to get in there and like really moving the product doesn't really work. You kind of have to massage it a little bit, kind of heat it up, with like the motion of your brush, and then you'll see it kind of start to slowly blend out and dissipate. But you don't want to get in there and try and like force it. It just won't work. At least it doesn't for me. So that would be my tip for these solo shadows. But I just think they're really, really great. I put on a very light layer, as you guys can see, and it's just a lovely, I mean, the Studio shade is definitely my favorite. I also got Mid-Century and Nelson. Mid-Century is too warm for me. Do you see that? It's almost like a rusty shade, so that's not really for me. The Nelson, I have to play with a little bit more because it's like a gray color, and I think if I want to do a smoky look, this is going to be great. It's kind of like a warm gray. Isn't that pretty? And I should mention, the packaging of these is great because they click close. So you screw it on, and then at the end, it does that click. And it's so great because, as we know, cream shadows in pots tend to dry out very quickly. So I love that little clicking, I know my lid is on tight sort of mechanism that they have. So anyway, Merit Solo Shadow, highly recommend. And then I love, 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 you guys knew this was coming up, the Ocean Sunrise quad from Clé de Peau. I've been playing around with all of the quads. I love a number of them, as you guys have seen me play around with. Like the purpley ones, there's one that has like a little bit of a peach in there. This one though, you just can't beat this one. It's so gorgeous. And I just mentioned this in my 5 eyeshadow palettes that I'm gonna be like reaching for the fall season. This, absolutely, this is my favorite. I feel like I just get such an elegant and chic kind of eye look with all of those browns in there. And I can go as deep as I want. I can kind of stop with this mid-tone brown if I don't want to get too smoky, or I can go all the way, or I can just put this all over the lid. It's just wonderful. And then this shade down here is a primer shade, which goes for all of the Clé de Peau quads. The bottom left-hand shade is a primer shade. So put that down first. It has like a very creamy texture to it. And then the 3 powder shadows are just gonna glide right over and blend out. I mean, magnifique. Just really, really beautiful. So Ocean Sunrise by Clé de Peau. And then another quad that I mentioned in my fall palettes that I'm gonna be reaching for is the Smoky Quartz quad by Tom Ford. This is like an oldie but goodie. This was a contender for my current favorites at Sephora, but the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette kind of beat it out. But anyway, this palette is stunning. And this, actually, you know what? That shade reminds me of the Studio shade from Merit. Wow. I am consistent, if anything. Yeah, very similar. I was just gonna say, I love using that one shade as like a one and done, this one right here. Wow. This one's a little bit deeper. This one is a little bit more cool toned brown color. But yeah, very similar. Okay. Well, I like these tones. I like these very earthy, brown toned, like nude colored eyeshadows. I just think they're just really, really beautiful. They work for me. And this cream formula from Tom Ford, so these are a little bit different from his regular eye color quads. These eye color quad cremes are like a cream to powder formula. They're very, very creamy in the pan, and then they start to behave like a powder shadow once you start applying them. Very lovely. So I just wanted to mention that because, yeah, this one is coming back out. And then no new mascaras. Oh, eyeliner. Oh my gosh, I cannot forget to talk about these because I love these so much. These are the new Lisa Eldridge, what's the full name? Seamless Glide Eye Pencil. Okay, I have 2 shades on today. So I have the deep brown one, which is ground coffee. I keep wanting to say black coffee. I'm sorry. If I say black coffee, I mean ground coffee. So I have this basically lining my upper lash line, and they will set down, so they will become budge proof, but they're like a gel kohl hybrid. And I think I'm in the minority here, but I really love kohl pencils. Kohl pencils just work for me. I feel like I can smudge them out. They don't transfer or do anything weird on my eyes. Gel pencils, I'm pretty picky about. As you guys know, the Hourglass Voyeur waterproof gel eyeliner, I've been loving that because that has a really nice texture. But sometimes I just don't get along with gel eyeliners. I feel like they kind of dry out my eyes or they do something weird. Anyway, I love that this is like a hybrid between the two. Again, she has spun her magic, Lisa Eldridge. So again, I have ground coffee lining my eyes, and I take a brush. You can actually see the remnants on it. I take a brush and I use that to smudge it out and kind of soften the line. And then I have been going really hard with Renaissance Gold, and today I use it in my lower waterline. So it has just a hint of like a metallic sheen. It is deep enough if you want to use it to like deepen up your lash line. But I just like the idea of like using both of these today, like the ground coffee and this on my lower waterline. I love these pencils. They're so easy to use. They're so soft when they go on. I mean, it's almost like you can't believe it. Like, how is this actually in pencil form? It's so soft, but it works beautifully. So Lisa Eldridge Seamless Glide Eye Pencil. Love them. All right, let's move on to lips. So here's another product that I have not used in a while, and I don't know why, because I love it. But this is the Chanel Longwear Lip Pencil in color 162 Nude Brun. And so I've been lining my lips with this and then basically using a multitude of glosses. You guys know I love glosses, but I really have been going hard, and this has shown up in my favorites before, with the U Beauty Plasma Lip Compounds, especially since they came out with these tinted ones. So this originally came out as skincare, like a lip mask, and then they came out with tinted versions. You guys, I cannot get enough of these. So today I actually have Bellini on, which is a beautiful peach color, and I have that over the Chanel. So I'll line my lips with the Chanel and I'll fill in just a little bit, and then I'll put this on and just kind of mush my lips together. And it's great. The two other colors that I've been using are basically like two neutrals, Fawn and Sunset. They're basically like nude shades. And I just love this Plasma Lip Compound. I feel like it gives me like a little bit of a gloss, nothing high shine. You guys know I'm not like into that super high shine gloss, not for me. These just leave my lips feeling incredible, incredible. These are actually skincare, so I'm not surprised, but my lips just feel so happy. They feel so happy. They're so plump. You can't even see any lines in them. And trust me, before I put these on, there's definitely some lines there. They're just wonderful. And I usually have them in my handbag. I mean, I'll just take any color because they're so lightly tinted that pretty much any shade will work. They're just gorgeous. So anyway, the U Beauty Plasma Lip Compounds, and that is it. That is it for my favorites this past month. Let me know what your favorites are, have been, are going to be down below in the comment section. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video.